And we live. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Watch on my reviews. This is your boy James, where I am here to give my honest review while trying to watch my mouth. It's not gonna happen this video, but that's okay. We'll live to fight another day. Joining me as always is my co-host, Mrs. Best. I'm not sure she made it back yet to her computer, but
I'm here.
okay.
Hi.
Her information is in my subscription box. Say what's up to the people, Mrs. Best.
Welcome in. Like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. Thank you for having me.
Yes, please. And while you're subscribing to me, please subscribe to her. Information usually will appear on the screen here, but I'm so sorry, y'all. We're running behind like crazy today, and this was spur of the moment. So her information is in my description box. If you guys want to click on her channel, please make sure you do so. Any recaps or reviews that I don't cover on my channel, it's because we cover on her channel. We just got done doing Real Housewives of Miami. Make sure y'all check that out. Also, we do The Valley, which the reunion is coming up pretty soon here. And then also we have Basketball Wives, and then Love and Hip Hop Atlanta decided to bring their raggedy bunches over here on live TV. So now we got a lot of shows for y'all. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. We work hard on this. So with that being said, we have Next Gen NYC. This episode is called Zero Bucks Given. It was a great episode, so I can't wait to get into it. So the show actually opens up where it left off with Ariana confronting Ava about her comments about her not believing that she's here in New York starting a fashion, line. And she, by looking at her, you wouldn't be able to tell, according to Ava, that that's what she does. And so when Ariana's confronting her, she's like, "What would make you say that?" She goes, "It's just your point of view. I didn't think that initially you were starting the label based on how I'm seeing your attire looks." One thing I'm gonna say about Ava, she wasn't afraid to tell her, "I don't think you can dress. I don't think fashion was in your corner." And then when she brought up, looking at Georgia, I could see Georgia's point of view. So she decided to start a fashion line. I could see it. And I'm looking at Ava like, Ava, now I was with you up until this part because Georgia does not look like I can see her point of view. Georgia looked greasy and slimy and everything every time I look at her and sweaty every time I look at her. No, I don't see her point of view at all. I don't know what you was trying to prove in that moment, but that was absolutely crazy. So we have Brooks, and I don't know who that was with Brooks. I couldn't tell who that was, but they were laughing. Brooks like, "Oh my god, I'm so uncomfortable." Meanwhile, you laughing your ass off. Y'all, I can't with Brooks. I'm sorry, I just can't with Brooks. But he's like, "Oh my god, should we sing Happy Birthday?" And I was like, "Well, whose birthday is it?" I had forgot that whole event was for Chloe. Just that quickly. That's how this is how bad that they don't make that much of an impression, but they have every damn scene in this show. These Marks kids, I forgot it was her birthday. So Brooke's like, "Happy birthday," that nasal ass talk. And I'm just like, oh, Lord. Ava's had it up to here. She's stressed. She's frustrated because someone confronted her. So she's over there ordering her a drink. And it was funny because Gia had jumped in for Ariana, and Riley was like, one thing I don't like about Gia is that she's always jumping in when she doesn't need to. Like, I don't want to have to fight you over somebody else. Like, cut it out, ma'am. So, Mrs. Best, how did you feel about that opening act that Ava and Ariana had with a little bit of G?
I feel like Ava is aware of the financial issues of Ariana's parents. And I think that because Ava's parents are actual serious people in the fashion industry, I do agree that she does have some type of like entitlement about that. Ava is not a designer. Her mom is. Her dad was. She's just a model. And we wouldn't care for her really as a model without her connections because there are a lot of people that look just like her. No shade. So I definitely feel like Ava was kind of using her status against Ariana, which is not fair. Just because her parents are idiots does not mean that she will be that. But I also thought it was a good example of like what some of these kids will go through being the children of housewives. Maybe people will watch this show and think twice before becoming housewives because this girl ain't done nothing. Her parents did it. But yeah, it was weird. Now, as for can Ariana dress? Kim couldn't dress. So if that's the case, so what? It runs in the family. But Ava's not out here in the best outfits either.
I was just going to say that. I was like, Ava, you just admitted your mom dressed you. So it's not flattering because she dresses you like a preppy high school girl and you grown. So I don't
Right.
understand that. Like, I don't understand that at all. To me, I kind of felt like you had no room to talk. I get what you were saying in the moment. Like, I understood what Ava was saying, but at the end of the day, you don't dress any better, and then you're not a designer, you're the model. So I kind of feel like for
She
me,
only takes the other girl because she says she took, what is that girl's name? The slimy one. The
Georgia,
greasy. Yeah. She only takes Georgia seriously because Georgia comes from rich parents and Georgia is known in New York for throwing parties and stuff. So of course you're going to take her seriously. But Ariana's new to New York and has not proven herself. So
Georgia
I
didn't come from
definitely,
no rich parents.
huh?
Georgia didn't come from no rich parents. Not after we'll get to her story in a minute.
She
They were
spoke
rich
about
for
her
a point
story.
in time.
Her parents did come up and they did get lots of money and it did contribute to some of her success.
No,
So
it didn't. They see that she said they were bankrupt, and she died when she was a kid. And she didn't say she came from a. She said that they built a successful business, but then her father laundered and bankrupted. You didn't hear her
ah,
say that?
well,
Yeah,
either way, without the parents, Georgia's established in New York.
yeah, she is.
Ariana just got there, so I think it's just a status thing. I
I think
genuinely
it's a
feel like
status
that's
thing,
why
but I
Ava
do
did
think
that.
I think it's an intimidation thing too. I'm starting to notice the kids who don't come from the housewife parents versus the kids who do come from the housewife parents. There's a little bit of jealousy there, and I'm gonna get more into that in a minute.
That is true. That is very
Yeah,
true.
there's a bit of I'm noticing the jealousy, especially coming from Charlie. But we move on. It's the next, following day. Georgia is with her business partner, Danny. They are going to be the spearheads of planning Meredith's caviar event. And I said, really, Bravo? Really? We got to see Meredith and Seth every fucking episode of this show. It's bad enough we got to look at them on Salt Lake City, but we got to look at them here too. Okay, okay. So they're saying they're excited. Meredith is going to be a great client for them, so they're really excited. And in the meantime, Brooks is walking Meredith to a showroom to pick out a piece for the actual event. Brooks says, "I've been styling my mom for years now. So, there was a point in time where she didn't use me and it showed. So I'm now back to styling her and everything." And I'm just like, if you're responsible for your mom's last two reunion looks, you needed to be fired. Because Meredith can't dress to me at all. I don't think there was ever a season. I think the first season, I think I'm going to give her the first season reunion. She looks great there. So if you did that, then fine. But something tells me you didn't do that. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. Not the best looks for your mom. Meredith can't dress to me, and the shit that they picked out there was obvious that she can't dress. But
Meredith cannot dress. Her ass is flat as a rail. And you could tell she face tunes her photos, and the freaking camera guys were petty because they kept zooming in on Meredith's face.
well, they gotta highlight that wrinkle, so like because they watch on my reviews where I make fun of that shit. So that's why they made sure to zoom in on that. They were this is what James be talking about on Watch Your Mouth reviews. This is what he be talking about, y'all. So
But
y'all,
maybe Meredith is only here. I don't know. She's giving nothing on the Housewives of Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City could go on without Meredith and do just fine. So
can Next Gen New York City too.
and I'm like, well, obviously they're in New York so much. Just stay there, please, Meredith.
It gives she couldn't cut it for Real Housewives of New York, so they just put her in Salt Lake City.
Yep.
Because she got a store there. That's what it gives to me. But anyways, Brooks is having a little bit of, he has a lot of anxiety for someone his age. Like, I want to know what happened to him. Something happened. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he saw, but he has a lot of anxiety. So apparently Meredith had fired him because he had messed up on a shipping order that was supposed to, be very, very big for her. And he had messed up, and she, basically scolded me. And he said it was very harsh. Like, for her business partner, I understood it, but for her son, it was very harsh. And I said, and that's the problem. That's the problem. You want her to separate the fact that you're her son. So you don't want her to highly criticize you. But if you were her business partner, that would have been acceptable. That's the problem. You're entitled. And this is the clear example of where it shows you're entitled. And Meredith laughs it off, and she goes, I wasn't being that way towards you. You know, you just messed up and I had to correct you. And I'm looking at Meredith like, Meredith, you didn't do anything wrong. This is business. He wanted to work for you. He needed to suffer the ramifications. So if you come at him the same way you would come at anybody else, he's the creative director, right? You would come at anyone else that same way. You needed to do that. I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for Brooks. I don't. I don't feel sorry for him. You shouldn't work for your mom. You shouldn't. But you know, hey, it ain't none of my business at the end of the day. That's between them. But at the end of the day, I don't feel sorry for Brooks. I just don't. Mrs. West, how'd you feel about that scene?
I don't care for Brooks on TV. I don't think he's got the personality to be on reality TV. And he's spoiled.
Yes, very much so.
That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm not gonna have much to say ever about Brooks. He doesn't give enough for us to ever say much.
He's just not an inner. To me, he don't give reality TV star. He just doesn't. He gives on the sidelines. He needs to be on the sidelines. I feel like he can style whoever he wants to style. But as far as a reality TV personality, no, I don't see it for Brooks. I just don't see it. So the next thing we look at is that Riley goes over to Ariana's new apartment, you know, brings her a gift and everything. And they begin talking about the whole situation with Ava. Hey, Shani, thank you for being here, my love. I appreciate you. They talk about the whole situation with Ava. They talk about Charlie and how that's moved over and everything. And I was cracking up at that scene because Hudson didn't know how to use the stove. And I was just like, damn. And when he turned that gas on, it kept making that tick sound. I'm like, ooh, don't nobody light up no cigarette, please. Because he gonna burn that motherfucker down. I said, y'all know that's so dangerous. I'm surprised they have gas stoves like that, like in such a tight knit space. I know a lot of apartments have them in New York, but I'm just surprised like they have not ruled out like that whole dangerous of that being, you know, a situation, especially putting gas in all those units like that. That is crazy. But you know, I thought it was a cute scene between Ariana and Riley. I love that they're picking up on their friendship. How did you feel about Ariana and Riley's little scene?
I think it's nice. It makes sense for them to band together because the Housewives kids did have a different lifestyle. Growing up with cameras and being rich is different from just growing up rich. So good for them. Please
Yeah,
don't use the stove no moto.
yeah. Please don't use that stuff. That made me nervous as hell. So the next thing we're going to talk about, Ava meets up with Charlie. They go to the Slutty Vegan, which I cannot wait to try. The owner, that black lady, I forgot her name. She was on Love and Marriage Huntsville, and that's a damn shame. I forgot her name like that. But she has 3 locations. The one in Atlanta, I think she opened one in Huntsville, and then she has one in New York. So she's asked Damon Dash to take over the one in New York because she said it's too much for her to handle. So I guess he did agree to it. So he wants Ava to go ahead and check out the location and see when they can open. And he asked Charlie, you know, you want to get in on this and everything. And Charlie didn't give him a direct yes, but he was kind of like, you know, giving him the respectable politic answer, like, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, it's fine. And they said, well, will you be want to get a liquor license? So apparently a liquor license in NYC costs $30,000. I said, oof, $30,000 for a damn liquor license? There just would be no liquor at the Slutty Vegan. I don't know. Just Slutty Vegan, I don't know what the Atlanta location looks like. Do they have alcohol there? I'm assuming they do if that's what he needs, but they want to turn it into this nightclub. Charlie says he doesn't even like vegan burgers. So I'm like, well, what the hell is you doing here? Like, he's annoying. But I feel like because I've heard through the grapevines that Damon Dash is starting a lot of businesses and they're not doing too well, and that he constantly does this. So he's just kind of picking up whatever business will stick. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm gonna say allegedly because I don't know this man's business like that, but from what I've heard, he's been doing this and that his finances is up the rut. So Mrs. Best, how did you feel about seeing this venture and seeing, you know, them potentially taking over the Slutty Vegan for New York?
I was just wondering why Charlie was there. Damon Dash is vegan, I believe, so it makes sense. But why was Charlie there?
Right.
That's
It
the
didn't,
only.
it didn't make sense to me either because it's like, unless you want some financial backing from his father, I don't understand why he would be there either. That was just so weird and just so, you know, Just so odd. But the conversation between
It was for the show because Damon Dash is connected enough to probably connect with his dad if he wanted to.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the conversation between Ava and Charlie, basically, he was talking about how he lent Georgia the speaker and she hasn't returned it back to him. And Ava's like, I thought you and Georgia were good. And he was all like, Georgia was homeless before me. She was eating my scraps and everything, sleeping on my couch. And I said, damn, why is you throwing this lady business out there like that? That's fucked. I was like, whoa. I said, Georgia, I hope you're looking at this in today's time, and I hope you and Charlie are not good. I don't know what happens between her and Charlie, because at the end of the scene, we'll obviously talk about it, but that would make me mad. Like, how would you feel, Mrs. Best, if one of your so-called best friends talked about you to another person that y'all are in association with through a TV show and saying that specific thing about you? Like, how would you feel?
I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of having to sleep on nobody's couch. So I wouldn't have cared about that part. But Charlie is weird. I think the way Charlie moves, hi Miss AKA, I think the way Charlie moves is messy. I think he moves with the intent or the ability to cause destruction.
Yes.
So like I've had friends sleep on my couch. Ain't no thing. That shows you a good friend, if that. And I feel like that's why he was trying to say that. But it's the context I did not like. You're saying like, oh, I did this for her, so she has to do the work with the relationship and friendship. I don't like that. If you let somebody sleep on your couch, do it out the goodness of your heart. Or if I bring that up, I could be like, this has never happened, but I could be like, oh, yeah, James, that's my dog. I've known him forever. We go way back. He used to sleep on my couch. Like, that's okay if you're doing it like that. But if you're like, oh no, he used to sleep on my couch and now like he's acting weird. Like, I'm not for talking about your best friends with people that you are not close with. So it was the context that I just did not like. I also feel like if you do something for a friend, don't fucking throw it in their face. That irks my soul. If I give someone some money, I'm not going to throw it in their face 20 years later if we have an argument like, well, I gave you $20 6 months ago. Like, that's weird. So it did feel like Charlie was kind of trying to use that gesture he did for Georgia on the show. It's like, I did this for her. So no disrespect or no, anything that I don't agree with should I receive from Georgia because I let her sleep on my couch. Like, Charlie, please go away.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Happy Sunday, Q1. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. So, let's move on to the next thing, which is Georgia and Omar, her boyfriend. They're going out to dinner and they're talking because, they plan to go to business together and everything. And he starts out the conversation saying, I want to address the elephant in the room. And Georgia looking around like, what elephant? And, she's one of those people that laugh at her own jokes and shit and laugh at her stupidity, which it's funny. It's harmless. I actually like that about her. But he was like, after 2 months of dating, he goes, I love you. Georgia looked and said, wait, hold up. Wait a minute. Your behavior is odd because we were out and you didn't know this young lady for a day and you told her that you love her. But he was like, yeah, but I didn't really mean that. And she goes, well, how I know you mean it now? And I said, see, one thing about Georgia that I like about her, Georgia ain't no damn fool. Like, to me, it was weird that he said it, and I thought she was gonna fall for it because to me, she looked like the average kind of insecure lady. Like, she does look like that to me. But I misread her because no, Georgia is confident as hell. Georgia said, listen, I don't play that shit. You ain't gonna play with me with this love word and love bomb me and thinking that shit gonna work. It's not gonna fly over here. I don't think you mean it, and I'd rather you not play with my emotions. And then Georgia gets into the whole situation where her trust issues come from. Her trust issues come from her father. Basically, when her father and mother started their business and everything and 9/11 happened, he just had this whole secret life. So the company went bankrupt, everything happened, and he pretty much left their mother with nothing and for her to figure it out. So she said that she has a lot of trust issues when it comes to men because she feels like somebody can do the same thing. And I'm glad at her young age that she's aware of that. Because a lot of people, it takes a lot of life lessons to really learn that. You should not trust you. I mean, we should be able to trust because we're all human. We should have some deep level of trust within each other. But at the same time, you have shiesty people who looking for opportunities, which I feel like Omar is. I'm not gonna lie, he give me that type. You have people who, say they love you one day and then go upside your head the next. You just never know what a person's intentions are, which is why you take the time to date them. I feel like Georgia's at the dating stage where she don't know where this man is going to put his right foot and his left foot. So she just, is taking it day by day with him. But for him to say that he loved her and she called that shit out, she said, your patterns and your behavior do not execute right now what you're trying to, confide with me. And I love that about her. I'm starting to like Georgia. She's nasty, but I'm starting to like her. How you feel about that scene with Georgia and Omar?
She did well. I knew Georgia was confident when she told a room full of people she don't wash her hands. So I wasn't worried about her at that time. I said she fighting crime and germs. She can do anything. So I'm not surprised. Georgia's actually likable. I think of all the kids who are not known from Housewives, she's the most likable.
Yeah, she's starting to come over to my good side. I didn't think she would, but she's starting to come over to my good side, and I'm liking Georgia so far, y'all. So far, she ain't pissed me off yet, so we good. Me and
She's
Georgia.
herself and authentic and the same in every scene,
Yes.
no matter who she's with. That's very rare on TV. So I appreciate her for that, but that's about it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we follow Georgia. She then goes over with her business partner. They're trying to set up a Meredith's event, which is literally in the next day. So they go over to the first event space and they're actually getting evicted. So there was a marshal notice on the actual door, and Meredith was actually meeting them to go over this. And they're laughing at this because they're not taking this serious, but they need to take it serious because Meredith is not one of those kind of people. And it was funny because the producers asked Georgia, "Have you seen Meredith's show?" And Georgia's like, "No." And then they played like this like background of that infamous her and Angie getting into it. That you can leave.
I
You know
wish they
that.
would have shown how Meredith is not a boss on her show,
I wish
cannot
they would
read
have
to
too.
save her life, and how she did all of that. You can leave, and the bitch didn't leave.
Right. I wish they would have showed Angie sitting there just drinking her drink. I wish they would have showed that because Meredith ain't scaring nobody. Meredith talks a big game. I am disconnecting. I am disconnecting from this conversation right now. You guys are horrible people. That's not getting nobody together. That's not getting nobody together.
Just
That is
throwing
trying to,
a hissy fit.
raise up emotion to show your camera. But okay, producers of Next Gen NYC, y'all want to make Meredith out to be this monster boss lady that get everybody together, and she can't. She ran out crying out of Mary Cosby's home. If she was a boss, she'd say, "I'm staying right here eating my bread. What's up?" That's the boss. So go somewhere with me. I'm not gonna play with y'all. I'm not. Um, Show Mary with those breakfast. I'm trying to tell you that's the scene I wish they would have played, where she went out somebody's house crying. That's what they should have played. I like Meredith, but I don't have to see her or Seth on. I'm trying to tell you, I was so annoyed with looking at them. I was like, why are we seeing them every episode? Like Teresa, she just popped in a couple episodes. I didn't really mind that because I figured we were going to see if Gia's on the show. Of course, we're going to see Teresa. Of course, we're going to see Candy. Of course, we're going to see Kim Zolciak at some point.
The
So
thing is, I don't like Teresa, but at least with Teresa, seeing her would make sense. Gia lives with her mom still.
right, right, right,
So
right,
it
right,
makes
right.
sense. Like Seth, Meredith, you could tell they're just happy to be on camera. They're not this interesting on Salt Lake City. So please don't take away from the shine of these young people.
Please don't by showing them every 2 seconds because it got annoying. So um, we see Georgia still trying to work out the event. They lost the caterer as well, so they're trying to figure out what to do with the caviar. And at one point, Danny said, "Oh, we could put the caviar on some Lay's chips," and I'm looking at her like, y'all could tell y'all some amateurs and don't know nothing about no cooking or nothing. That's not no, that's not a good presentation at all. Get some bruschetta bread and put it on top of that. The lady, the chef that they did hire said she could put it over some cucumber. She could put it on a hard boiled egg, which I felt was cheap, realistically. But you never know what Meredith's budget is, so I'm not going to, not going to make a fit over with the food or everything. This is kids throwing an event, so it is what it is. So Charlie is blowing up Georgia's phone asking about this speaker. And she said she'll get it to him as soon as possible. He's even offering to Uber it. And she goes, look, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. Don't worry about it. I got you. I'll get it to you. So, we see this text message thread happening a whole lot. It's crazy. So it actually comes to the event. Meredith and Seth is over there carrying their own caviar to the event, which was crazy enough for me. I'm like, this is how you know this was set up for the show to highlight Georgia. I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. But I kind of felt like y'all could at least, not have them show this. Like, because this is very much given we're doing this for Georgia, so she can have, some more start. And Charlie then calls Georgia and says, hey, I need my speaker. I need my speaker. And Georgia's like, hey, I'm at an event. You're about to be here in a minute. So just chill, be cool. He goes, yeah, but I'm gonna have some people over at my house after. She goes, I will get you your speaker, just right now. Just really being an irritant to Georgia at this point. She's trying to be professional. Meredith is a client, regardless if this is for the show. It's still not a good look. So everyone's showing up there. Everyone's all of the kids. Shy's also there. We saw him running across the street. That looked scary as hell. I'm not gonna lie. And pretty much everyone gets there. Charlie gets there, and it seems like he's cool. He's not really mentioning the speaker in the scene and everything. So they're like, oh, okay, we're cool. And everyone notices that Ava is not there yet. They're like, where the hell's Ava? Where the hell's Ava? And so Ava is literally down the damn street. She don't want to walk in the rain to get to the event. And so Charlie tells Georgia, hey, Ava says she's running late, and she just sent me her location. And Georgia's like, she's down the street, and the event is over in 20 minutes. Like, why would she come now? She should have came at the beginning. And I agree. I felt like that was really rude of Ava. I did. I felt like, Ava, come on. You could have made it to that event. Like, why the hell are you this late? So Ava gets there, and she mentions to us that she sent a text message to Ariana and also Gia, apologizing about the other night, and didn't want to attack Gia for starting a business in New York or anything. She didn't want to look down on another woman starting an event, or starting a business. So they hug it out, which was really interesting, and they said, well, you missed all the caviar, it's all gone. She goes, oh, I wanted to try it and everything. And pretty much Charlie at this point is riling up everybody because he wants to go to this club. I think it's called The Box, if I'm not mistaken. Very exclusive club. I hear it's very expensive. Some of the YouTubers here on YouTube did some research to see how much it does cost to get in there, and it is highly expensive. But Charlie's like, yeah, we can all split it. So Amira says she'll split some of the costs. Riley says she'll split some of the costs. And everyone says they'll pretty much split it. So Charlie got exactly what he wanted, everyone to split it. So Mrs. Best, did you see this trap coming for Charlie a mile away, that he was getting everybody to split? It was mainly the housewives' kids.
I think that this is not just a trap directed towards the housewife kids. This is what Charlie does. People have to understand, just because someone's family is rich does not mean that they are. It means that their family member is rich. Family ain't just handing out cash all the time like that. Charlie is a 30-year-old man who claims he's in crypto. He uses his monthly allowance to trade crypto. He does not have a job. So I'm not surprised, because they've been kind of leading up to this a little bit with each episode. So I'm not surprised at all. The thing that I don't understand, I don't do anything without proof. I would have been like, okay, so who's going to be the collector of all the money? And I would have had everybody transfer me their money before we went to the club to have shit figured out. You ain't going to be going into that. Charlie is broke. His dad is broke.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are so right.
He getting an allowance. That's broke.
Yeah, that's what Charlie does. And Mrs. AKA is correct also, is definitely a lifestyle of his. I think he gets cool with people. That's why he's friends with these younger people who are much younger than him. Because
they're easy to manipulate.
Let me tell you this, it's easier for him to pull this shit with this age group than to pull it with the 35 plus age group that
Yeah, he
myself,
need to be
James,
actually in. Yeah, that his
like
ass need to
that's
be
not
in.
gonna
Like,
happen. That's a
mhm.
lot of money.
It
Like
is a lot of money.
that's just a lot of money. But I'm not surprised by Charlie James at all.
I wasn't surprised by it either, but it was kind of like, damn, you over there hustling these little kids, and because you're impressionable, you're older, you have a lot of connection using your dad's name. Of course, they're going to succumb to you. Like, it's just crazy to me how he was able to hustle them kids out that money. That was crazy as hell. But we're gonna get back into that. I want to ask Mrs.
They
Best.
need to do better too, because all of them expressed in a previous episode that like Charlie is always borrowing money from people. There's always IOUs. His roommate's annoyed with him. Like,
Yeah, we're gonna
this
get to that in a
is
minute.
what he does.
We're gonna get to that right in just a minute here. I have another question. Do you feel that Ava should have apologized to Ariana for making the comment?
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
Okay.
You don't have to speak on everything that you think. Just because I think someone's shoes are ugly doesn't mean I have to go tell people, yeah, his shoes are ugly, so I don't think he could be a fashion designer. Like, what? It's not her place. It didn't make sense. It was rude. And if someone would have said, I don't know if she's really a model, like, I'm sure Ava would feel away. So yeah, she should have apologized. It was unnecessary. But this is what Ava does. She did this on Growing Up Hip Hop as well. She's never going to easily admit that she's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt too. I felt she was wrong, but a lot of people didn't feel she was wrong. And I'm like, where are y'all at? She was absolutely in the wrong. 100% in the wrong. But hey, what do I know? But anyways, we will move on. So the next thing we'll talk about is Charlie and his roommate Dylan. So his roommate Dylan is kind of frustrated with Charlie because from what he's explained is that Charlie is sitting up here, getting all this money a month, and when it comes down to it, he never covers the bill. Like if they were to go out for drinks, he always tells Dylan, "Hey, I'll sell you. Can you cover this? I'll sell you when I get my money, or I'll sell you, or if we go to dinner, I'll sell you." And Dylan is like us. He worked day to day. He on OnlyFans. He trying to make his money. He is hustling. And the last thing he needs is some spoiled rich kid who gets a monthly allowance to mooch off of him. And I said, Dylan, this is where you move out. This is where you get your own shit. This is where you cut ties with people like that because he's gonna forever do that because that's his mentality. If he can't get it from his daddy, if he can't get it from his mom, he gonna get it from somebody because he's not taught to work for his shit. And the fact that you know this and you still are, doing this, it means that you're using him the same way he's using you. Because anyone you're that sick of, you will make strides to leave the situation. So, and then we also find out through dinner, because I'm gonna go ahead and mention this now, because that Charlie owes Dylan up to $4,000. And I said, there's no way in hell. Absolutely no way in hell Charlie would owe me that amount of money. And I'm broke. Like I'm not a trust fund baby. I'm working for mine. There's absolutely no way Charlie would owe me that amount of money. Absolutely not. So Dylan, that's your fault because I don't think you'll ever get it. To be honest with you, I don't think you'll ever get it. So, Mrs. Best, how do you feel about Dylan explaining, his point of view of Charlie? And is it on par with what you think, their situation was?
Dylan confirmed what I already knew, that Charlie plays the IOU game based on the fact that everyone knows that he can pay them back because his dad is giving him at least $10K a month for an allowance. Look, not my husband in the background talking about damn. Okay. But I don't feel sorry for Dylan in any way. People do what we allow them to do.
Yep.
I have a rule with all of my closest friends. If they ask me for money, if they legitimately need it, I will give it to them if I have it. And I never want to be paid back. Never expect people to pay back. That's just how I was raised. However, I have a limit of 3 times in a year that you can ask me for money. If you are asking me for money more than 3 times in a year, then you need to get your ass up and go do what I do and go to work for 40 hours a week. And if you don't like your job and it's not enough, get you a second job. Or if you need to find a job that pays better, do that, go to school, do whatever you have to do. But people really do what you allow them to do. And it's important to have boundaries within yourself that you know that you apply to other people. And then it's also important to make people aware of your boundaries, which you don't always have to do by speaking or having a conversation. You can do it, Dylan, simply by saying, no, I can't lend you no money. Stop asking me about it. And then close your fucking door to your room. Dylan is paying the bills.
He's paying the bills. That's what that $4,000 was.
Which is crazy because Charlie's dad has this big home that he could be in, but he's so ornery that he doesn't want to go and live off of his dad. But you're basically living off of your dad because you're using your little funky ass allowance to pay all these people back and doing IOUs. Now, I'm going to tell you this. When I was 30 years old, I did have some friends that were younger. I would never, if I needed money, I hate to ask people to borrow money anyway. I'm prideful and I always like to keep a bag, but never would I think, oh, let me call my 22-year-old friend and borrow some money. Like, Charlie's lame. He's lame.
Yes, it's terrible. Honestly, it's sad to watch. It is. It's sad to watch and it's very pathetic. And then he looks down upon all the rest of them. Because he was talking about, what does Riley do for a living?
What the fuck do you do for a living?
Like, what you calling out Riley for? Just because she had the money. Because apparently, Riley paid for the whole event night. Amir said she's going to pay her back half of that money. And I guess she was collecting, Riley was collecting IOUs. But apparently, Riley paid for the whole thing. And
let me tell you this. Riley is Candy's child. Candy, who commented last time we went live, Candy worth $30 million and she counting every single penny. Riley is her mom's child. Riley has probably been saving a portion of her allowance since she was 5. So I believe that she would cover it. But Riley also has a college degree.
Yeah.
And Riley also has a mother that's connected that likes her. And Riley is also at the age where she technically don't have to have a job because she's just getting out of college. Charlie is a full-grown boy.
Right.
And he's looking like Peter Pan asking these little kids for money. I don't trust it. I just don't. I don't like it.
It pissed me off because it was like, why are you coming after Riley? And why are you trying to compare her 21-year-old self to your 31 grown ass?
Because Riley's mom is married to a black man and Ava's dad and mom are not. I really think it's something to do with that. Because Charlie also seems like he can be a little prejudiced at times, which is crazy. Because
that was already proven. That was already proven his perception of black women. That was already proven. So we already know this. But my thing is this. It was the whole, you're coming down on Riley. Like, I'm noticing the passive aggressiveness towards her. Like, I really am. But in hindsight, you're using her to get in the clubs and making sure she covers the tab. Right, Charlie? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ooh, if they have a reunion, he's going to have a hard time.
He's going to have a hard time.
Jax Taylor in training.
Mm-hmm.
When we met Jax, he was what, 32? The rest of the people of Vanderpump Rules was 21.
Yeah. He gonna get it, trust me. They better lay it on him. But the next thing is everyone goes out to dinner with the exception of Charlie, and they're all talking about that night, about how Riley paid the bill or whatever, and how Charlie brought all them girls to the VIP section of where they were, and Riley didn't even have a place to sit. So not only is she covering the bill, but she ain't got nowhere to sit in the section she's paying for. That was crazy as hell. And so they're all comparing notes about how Charlie will borrow money from them. He had a situation with a mirror where they were in the Hamptons and she had to cover a spot for $3,000 for him. And, and Georgia was trying to defend him a little bit. And she goes, well, I know the number of money that he gets from his father every month. And Riley said, well, what's that number? And Georgia's like, no, I'm not going to say it. I said, well, what'd you bring it up for? You might as well be messy. I can't stand when people do that. I can't stand when people, you leave with messiness and then you don't want to go the full length. You already opened the door. You might as well go ahead and explore all the rooms. Like, come on. Like, that's so crazy to me. I was pissed at Georgia. I'm like, no, tell them the number. You already opened the door. Why would you not say it now? She goes, no, I'm not going to say it. Charlie, he goes through a lot with his dad. And I'm like, Georgia, there you go. There you go. Just when I'm starting to like you, I'm going to like her again by the end of this episode. But It was crazy to me that they were sitting there, doing all of that, and then study defending his behavior like it's acceptable. It's crazy. So we understand that it's Brooke's birthday. He's turning 25. Um, I was like, damn, to be 25 again. Oh. And Amir said 25 was her favorite year. Brooke's confessional was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm old because 25 is halfway to 15. I'm just like, oh my God, please get him off my fucking screen. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. 25 was an okay year for me. It wasn't all that. Let me tell y'all, my favorite year of my 20s was when I turned 27. I don't know what it was about 27. I had my shit all the way together. Had a yellow Camaro, had my bills paid off, had crazy, like I worked 2 jobs, but I had a lot of access. I was living life at 27. So 27 was my favorite year of my 20s. It just was. So I don't know. 25 wasn't that big of a deal for me. So Mrs. Best, how do you feel about this scene directly?
With Brooks?
Well, just in general, like how do you feel about the scene? So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
If you were right and Charlie had a whole bunch of women up in your VIP section that you paid for, would you tell the other girls to get the fuck on and him too? Or would you just sit there and let it happen?
I wouldn't tell them. If I didn't have a seat and he knew that I was paying and he hadn't had nothing to give, because he knew he had no money when he asked them to do this. Whoever's card was on file with the club, I would have went to the club and said, can you please remove these people from my section? The fuck?
That's business best for y'all. She sure would. She sure would.
Waste my time arguing with some people about some shit that I paid for.
Especially that kind of money, and Riley will go to detail what she paid for. In just a second.
It could have been over a nickel. If it's my nickel, then you gonna raise the fuck out or tell your bitches to leave. Because it's already enough I'm donating to charity by letting you be here.
Right.
Sipping on our liquor. Now you want to bring some hoes. I can't even sit down in the club. We are not all family in the club. Security, get these bitches the fuck out my section. And in that order. That's all it would have been. Riley is too nice, and that's why Charlie
is. And that's what gets on my nerves with her. So we did move up. We have Candy finally make her appearance on the show. Riley meets up with her. And Candy looking at Riley like, oh, you got your booty shorts on? And you didn't think to put nothing in that hair? And she goes, why are you hating, Mom? She goes, I ain't hating, I'm your mom. And I said, thank you, Candy. Somebody had to say something. But they're talking about, her plans and futures, and she's decided that she wants to be a DJ. I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with that. She has the connect. She has, the access. So I feel like that's a good field. DJs make a lot of money, especially when you attach yourself to an artist. So, I think that that's a good field for her. And so they didn't, Ariana shows up. And Candy was, hugging her. And I love that. I did. I love that Candy embraced her, no matter her situation with Kim. I'm glad that Candy really embraced her. And she said, it's so crazy to see you grown. And I'm loving this right now. And I said, yeah, Riley's been my best friend. She's been my favorite thing about New York so far. And, and once again, it is heartwarming to see. And Ariana says, I don't know what's going on between Candy and my mama, but I always had respect for Candy. So, that has nothing to do with me. Please don't ask me about that. I said, I know that's right, Ariana. So then they talk about Charlie, and they talked about the situation of what happened. And, she said, yeah, he didn't pay us back for anything. And we were paying for 1942 bottles and everything. That's expensive. Candy said, I paid for 1942 bottles? She said, really? It's not a credit card I paid for. I know. She said, no, I use my own money. She said, what money, Riley? She said, how much did it all cost? Riley said, 14. Candy said, 14 what? 14,000. When Candy hit her, I say, that's right, Candy. Black Mama activated, because I don't care how many millions I got. $14,000 for one night. Candy with them tight teeth. Candy said, Riley, I can't believe you said $15,000 on a credit card. I said, that's right, Candy. Get it together. Y'all miss Candy on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I do, because she be having the most crazy surprise faces I've ever seen in my life. But that's a lot of fucking money.
Surprise faces are not enough. to be interesting on the show. I
I
think
know.
Candy made the right choice leaving the Housewives, and she's thrived even more in her career because now people take her more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Candy. I do. I just, sometimes on Housewives she bored me, but but this shit was funny as hell to me. And y'all, I did not see it before, but I see it today. Riley looked exactly like Mama Joyce. I said, God damn. I wish I would have screenshotted to show y'all. It was a smirk that she did. I was like, oh, she looked just like Mama Joyce, like the spitting image of her. Like, damn, Candy, was you mad at your mom at the time you was pregnant with Riley? What was going on? Because your daughter looked exactly like your mama, exactly to the T. It's crazy. But we then go to the final scene because I'm gonna skip all the rest of that shit. I don't feel like talking about Seth and Meredith. Y'all see, I need to talk about. I don't feel like none of that. So we have Charlie skateboarding around, and Georgia is, having lunch with her business partner, and she said that she finally returned his speaker or whatever, and Charlie is just crazy, and so he pulls up on it, and Georgia's like, "What's up?" And he was like, frankly, Georgia, I'm just really pissed off at you because you had my speaker. And she goes, and I gave it back to you. He goes, yeah, but it's still the principle of it, Georgia, and all this. And Georgia's like, Charlie, it's not even that big of a deal. It's the speaker. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I had it. I needed it. You offered. I took it. I returned it to you as soon as I could. What is the problem? And he goes, Georgia, you think you're better than everybody and all this. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. You mad at something else and you're taking it out on her. And he goes, you wouldn't even be on the shows for me, Georgia. Like, you were broke. You were living on my couch. You were homeless and everything. And she goes, Charlie, I work. I pay my own bills. I do everything for me. He goes, you wouldn't have none of this if it wasn't for me. None of this. And he gets up and he goes, if you were a man, I'd slap you right now. And she goes, oh, you would slap me. He goes, if you were a man, Georgia, if you were a man. I said, Charlie, it's the same thing. Because her name is still Georgia at the end of the fucking day. It don't matter what you mean. You impose violence on that. And if I was her, I'd press charges against your ass to show you. Because you're not going to threaten me. But see, you just you ain't ready. The problem with Charlie, he ain't met the right motherfucker yet. That's the problem with Charlie. He ain't met the right person yet. Somebody gonna end up knocking the shit out of him one of these days. I'm telling you, it's coming. Somebody gonna do it. And he ain't gonna know what to do. But how did you feel about him coming at Georgia?
Very good job, Georgia. He probably did take a bump or something. People like to project when they're angry. The worst friends you could have are the ones who go through something in life and then think they're literally looking for company to their misery. Right? So I was glad that Georgia got up and walked away. Now, she didn't return the speaker in a timely manner. Fine. But it's something so small. I'm not going to be like, I just wish she would have brought this up in a timely manner. Like, she's busy. My nigga, she got a job. You don't understand that because you ain't got no job.
Right.
So I'm just looking at Georgia like, I would have walked away from him too. She wouldn't have been on the show if it was not for you, fine. But I guarantee we would have discovered it some way because she's throwing parties and is connected to this group. So, and Charlie, you're not that interesting anyway. There wouldn't be a show if it wasn't for these housewives kids. So you trying to make it seem like
he keeps missing that point.
I mean, Andy Cohen said it. Like, the housewives kids influenced and helped the show get off of the ground. So Charlie wants to be thanked for being on television and all of this. And I think Charlie is going to think that being on the show is going to be his check. But if he is not accountable with his own shitty behavior, he ain't going to have his check very long. Because I see him going down a destructive path. One thing I noticed about him also is he blames everybody else for his situation.
Yes.
He has not once taken accountability like, oh, maybe I could work harder. Maybe I could use my degree. He has a master's degree. So that means he has 2 degrees. Like, he has everything lined up and set up for him. And it's actually annoying and offensive probably to most of the viewers, whether rich or poor. Anybody who has to work for the shit that they got are going to be probably generally disgusted with Charlie. So I didn't like it, but Georgia handled it appropriately. I don't argue with children, and he behaved like one. So she walked away. Good for her.
Yeah, that's right, Georgia. You don't take no shit from no damn Charlie. Don't take no shit from no Charlie. Because to me, he needs you more than you need him. I can guarantee. I can guarantee you. I think that's a part of it. But I think he thought he was going to be the star of the show, and he realized slowly but surely he wasn't. I think that Georgia definitely made her stamp on the show. So did Riley. So did Ariana. Hell, so did even Gia. So I feel like he thought that they were going to come on the show and all bow down to him, and it didn't happen that way. So yeah, I you know what? I think he used her. I don't know if he used her for the up. I think he used her for like getting around areas he couldn't get into himself. Because who the fuck know him? Like who knows him for him to have his own status, not Anwar status. We're not talking about that. Charlie status. Because sometimes New Yorkers don't give a fuck who your parents are. Who are you? Is usually what that is. So yeah. But other than that, that was it, y'all. That was the show. It was a crazy ass episode. I ain't gonna lie. Charlie was crazy. But Georgia's starting to, warm up to me. I want her to get her hygiene together. Because that's Georgia, that wasn't cute. All that sweating and slimy and greasiness we was looking at, you get that together. Because yeah. He would be. He would be. He would be, absolutely. But that was it, you guys. I appreciate everyone for being here today. Thank you so much on this joyous Sunday. We're going to have another live, y'all. So I'm going to make sure I get that in the books for us. And I really appreciate y'all being here for Next Gen. I'm going to try to be a little bit earlier with this live. I know this episode premiered on Tuesday, our episode's on Tuesday, but I'll try to be a little bit more on time. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you once again. Thank you, Mrs. Best, for being here. And I'll see you guys on my next live. Bye-bye.